Mortgage Weekly. It's episode 57. We're really happy that you guys can be with us. My name is Sam Thompson, and of course, I'm joined by Joe Bladek. Joe, how are you doing this week?
Oh, Sam, not too bad. It's great. It's great to be here on episode 57. Really excited to be here. How are you doing today, Sam?
Yeah, I'm doing good. We got over that cold snap, so I'm enjoying a bit more mild temperatures, which is definitely nice. It's nice on the car. I was out on Tuesday, and the car was a slow start in the morning. I had to give it some proper time to warm up before I could take it out.
Yeah, it's definitely the oil's getting a little sluggish in the cars, a little more thick with the colder weather here. But I guess that's why they say when you go in and that's why Canadians warm up their cars for a while. They have the auto starters. I don't know if you have one of those, but I still need to get one of those for my cars. Those things are really good to have. A lot of people probably getting new batteries this time of year too for their cars, noticing that their batteries are a little low on things.
That's right.
Yeah, but so really excited to be here today for our episode today. With the weather being always changing, I know that mortgage news and mortgage events and mortgage rates are always changing. So with that, we have an exciting episode planned for all of us today with regards to mortgage rates and where the bond yield's at and some other important metrics that we follow here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly.
Yeah, it's definitely it's good to cover off all of this information, and it might sound excessive to do it every week, but especially given the mortgage market for the last while, it is not unnecessary to have a weekly check-in because the rates are constantly shifting with new variants, restrictions, all like employment differences. It definitely has been not necessarily a turbulent year, but definitely something to keep up with and to track over the last while.
It really has, yeah. Very turbulent year. I know right now the kids are not even in school, they're at home. Parents are having to figure that out. I'm imagining all of a sudden some parents have had to take emergency vacation days even,
right?
Try to make this work. But now they're all going back to school now on the 17th. So hopefully the turbulence will subside for a little while. I know that when the kids were at home sales and people just looking for homes just dropped off because all of a sudden parents don't really have the time to spend on that anymore.
Yeah, that's right. It definitely has shifted the market. There's a lot of factors that go into the demand or the speed of the market, and we see that in a sense reflected in the rates and like you're saying, the metrics that we look at each week.
Yeah, so on to those metrics, Sam. If we can pull up the first slide there, we want to just take a look at here on episode 57 just what the bond yield is sitting at. And with that, each week we take a look at the bond yield, and what we want to do is not to really bore you with this information, but to really educate all of you that the bond yield really signifies where the fixed rates are going in Canada, specifically the 5-year fixed rate. So in this case, are you able to share that slide there?
Would you be able to make me there we go.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I just noticed that there. Perfect. So with the bond yield where it's at right now, it had taken a little bit of a dive right before the new year. And we did see fixed rates fall just slightly in that time frame following. But recently, Sam, we have seen a quick uptick in the last week and a half alone.
That's right. Even since, reporting last week, we were sort of on our way up to that 1.5 mark, but it's held steady for most of the week, except it has done, another slight jump. I think the rate we're sitting at now is 1.54, I believe. So like you had mentioned when we were looking at these charts even last week, I believe, is that we're starting to peak and almost reaching and matching where we were, heading into December that just passed. So it'll be interesting to see like you were saying, where the rate goes from there. Once it matches that peak, is it going to be able to break through and we're going to see a continuation, or, are we thinking it might phase out and kind of hold at that level?
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see. And I'm watching right now exactly for that same reason. Is it going to match and keep going past the peak and break through that resistance there, or is it going to go back down from that point? It's almost like watching the stock market. It's very exciting for a mortgage broker to look at this data, because it really is going to forecast how the housing market's going to shift and all that. But right now, we haven't really seen fixed rates change too much. So because of that, rates are still low. So if you're looking at this and thinking rates are going to go up, get pre-approved now so you can get that rate locked in. Because if rates do go up, that will essentially make homes cost more. So you don't want to be paying more if you don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as you guys continue to tune into Canadian Mortgage Weekly Live on Thursdays, we'll make sure that we keep you posted with the bond yield and where we're at next week. I think, Sam, we may see what will happen from this point. Will we be higher or will we be lower?
Yeah.
And,
Everybody
we are
can
also
place their bets in the comment section if you enjoy tracking this metric with us, and maybe you have an inside track at where you think the rates are going.
Yeah, exactly. And then moving on to the CDOR rate, this is a rate that Sam and I follow here just to make sure that we can be on top of the pulse of the variable rate mortgage market. And Sam, you've this morning we were chatting, you noticed some trending happening here on the variance here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always track the CDOR rate against the prime rate, which currently is 2.45. And we look at what the variance is from each other. And last week, the CDOR rate was 0.45. So it was at the, at 2% mark. And that was also coming off of seeing the CDOR gradually rising and gradually rising. So now we're seeing that variance is actually over the 2%. Indicating, we want to see that variance under 2% or at 2%. So the fact that, this week we're heading in, the latest data available was the 12th yesterday at 0.46. So now that we're over that, it brings up an interesting point or an interesting observation that, it could be an indication of things to come. And, there could be a shift, because we chat about it a lot that, over the last year, a third of Canadians have shifted to the variable rate, which, wasn't necessarily the case before.
Yeah, exactly, Sam. Yeah, with the third of Canadians hitting the variable rate this year, it's been quite a shift from years previous, because in previous years, we saw that the variable rate and the fixed rate were very close to each other. So a lot of clients were thinking, why would I take the variable rate when I can just lock in for virtually the same rate? But yeah, Canadians have been going variable. But yeah, with this new variance now closing in the way it is, and now being above the 2% mark, maybe that could change going forward. We're not sure. I mean, this, along with the bond yield that we're tracking, is really an interesting story. And we're also now with the Bank of Canada, their interest rate announcement, it's only 2 weeks away. So there has been some news about the Bank of Canada rate announcement on January 26th. There has been some talk about the fact that rates could be adjusted as early as this month.
Which is definitely news, considering, the last few commentaries and policies the Bank of Canada has on was that they were holding, their previous timeline of, maybe late spring. I think it was supposed to be summer, and then they tracked it back to the spring. And we're seeing these shifts in the metrics, and we're seeing some predictions of the fixed rate hiking a bit sooner. So it feels like everything's trending a certain way.
It really does. It's all going to depend, I think, Sam, on where the market's going to go.
Mhm.
So, and with that, we have a number of big factors playing into that. We have Omicron playing into that. We have restrictions playing into that,
Mhm.
and we have uh, just was on the tip of my tongue here. Obviously, the kids going back to school playing into that.
Mhm.
And maybe the weather even. It
That's
was
true.
really cold last few weeks here. Maybe if it's going to warm up, we could see that help things out. And employment
Mhm.
numbers. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already, but we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you all posted. At this point, I don't think I'm ready to make a prediction on what's going to happen
Yeah.
because COVID has proven very unpredictable. And
Mhm.
you know, I saw this new variant. They were talking about Deltacron recently, and I'm not sure if
Okay.
that's the thing, but we'll have to see what's going on with that.
Mhm.
But keep in tune with Canadian Mortgage Weekly Live. We'll be doing a special live reporting episode on the Bank of Canada interest rate announcement and their findings on January 26th, with a
Mhm.
following episode on the 27th. So keep in tune for that. And
Mhm.
with that, we're hoping to get some updated figures for all of you on the national house price average. We still are reporting November figures here from mortgagedashboard.ca. So, Sam, as soon as we get your figures, I'm sure we'll be reporting these here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly. I think we'll be able to have these next week.
Yes, hopefully we'll have some updated numbers. It'll be interesting to see how we finished off the year,
Yes.
because we had been tracking a gradual trend increasing. So I don't think the prices have been going down recently, but I'll let the data, explain that next week, and we'll see where we're at.
You bet. But with that, completes our normal reporting here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly with the stats and what's going on in the market. We just want to dive in now right into our topic today, and that's the 3 ways that refinancing can cure the Christmas blues. And that's something that every year we see in mortgages, and that's that everyone gets really pumped up for Christmas and New Year's,
Mhm.
and then it's just really hard to get back into the new year, isn't it, Sam?
It's true. It's definitely true. I mean, I found myself a few times over Christmas, when you're filling up on gas to go visit family for Christmas, you runs through your mind that, okay, it's just at Christmas, it's just at Christmas. But if you spend, that logic and that explanation for so many purchases, then January can be a bit of a shock when you wake up in the morning and double check what your account's looking like.
Exactly. Exactly. So with that, that brings us to our first way that, refinancing can cure the Christmas blues, and that's just through a debt consolidation.
Mhm.
We have a lot of clients that give us a call this time of year that will be in a situation where they have, some extra debt on their shoulders. Maybe they've
Mhm.
had a few credit cards come in higher than they expected. Maybe the line of credit had to have an amount put on it for an emergency furnace repair over the Christmas break.
Mhm.
I see a lot of my Facebook friends are saying, "Oh, my furnace is out."
Yeah, that's right.
Then I know
Mhm.
that can be a $500 bill very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I was commenting that the car had a rough morning. If there's any car issues, I've noticed it's getting more and more expensive to get, parts replaced or the
Oh
car
yeah,
actually worked on. So like you're saying, life happens and sometimes it has to go, onto the line of credit or credit card where, you're going to be paying higher rates on those individual credit lines rather than, consolidating into one single payment at a lower rate.
exactly. Sam, you make a good point. When you spread that amount that you've spent over the holidays on credit card one, credit card two, line of
Mhm.
credit A, line of credit B, and then maybe your partner has a couple accounts as well, then you're paying all those payments each month and all those interest charges each month. So,
Mhm.
and you're right, Sam, those interest charges, they are a lot higher. You're looking at, for unsecured lines of credit, could be 6 to 8%. And then you're
Mhm.
looking at credit cards, could be 19 to 29%, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So What we like to do is just to be able to show our clients that, because house prices have gone up and our clients are seeing a tremendous increase in their equity, banks are now looking at their homes and saying, we see that you have this debt, but we could incorporate this into a new mortgage for you. And typically, because the rates are still very low, the payment's actually the same, if not lower.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have, gained over the last little bit, a lot of appreciated equity. I believe we reported, or we were reading somewhere that I think 2021 capped off at about 20% home appreciation. So, we like to say that your home is a third income in the
Yes.
household. So, all of these housing price increases, if you are already a homeowner, that's just been giving you more equity and more appreciation to help consolidate some of that financial blues from Christmas.
Exactly. Sam, you made a great point, and that's that the home does have that third income in the house. Why not use some of that income that has been made over the last year to put towards some of these debts over the Christmas break?
Mhm.
So if you have a situation like that yourself and you're watching our episode today and you're thinking, wow, I do have maybe $5,000 to $10,000 in credit card debt right now, or maybe just I have too much going on, or I need to access my equity to pay off some debts there,
Mhm.
or maybe even you have a debt coming up because I know tax season now is upon us. Because as soon as Christmas is over and our debts are our bills are paid, then all of a sudden it's tax season. Maybe you want to get that all done in advance, and I know that it's a lot easier to refinance and get that money out before you owe the tax bill than after you owe the tax bill and it's now reporting that you're owing this tax bill.
Right.
So maybe pulling that money out ahead of time to do that could be a strategic move to help you pay down your taxes for tax time.
Mhm.
And another option would be, if you're looking to reduce your tax bill for the 2021 year, is to make an RSP contribution. And Sam, you can use your mortgage to do that.
Mhm.
And as long as you contribute within the first 60 days of 2022, you can apply that to 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great point that you brought up. Um, yeah, that actually, by taking out that extra money, you can save more by reducing your taxable income than, if you were to just keep it and not do the refinance. So that's a lot of the refinance talk is balancing out, the I don't want to call it risk versus reward, but looking over the numbers for you to make sure that, it makes sense to do the refinance.
Exactly. So moving on from that one, because that's not only the only one way we have to cure your Christmas blues.
Mhm.
Another one, we're spending a lot more time inside now, Sam, with the weather being so cold
Mhm.
and kids being home for school, people working home from home more long term now. And okay, are we going to keep working from the kitchen table, or are we going to do something about this?
Yeah.
So when we're looking at that, this is a good time to use that home equity that you have accumulated, that you have earned last year and the years before, to do some upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely. Home offices, I'm sure, are higher than they have ever been, because it was more of a niche, you know, home aspect to have, like at least a home office that's used regularly. And as you're saying, I know a lot of employers have been on the fence that, they've set dates that they're going back in person, and then that's been pushed. So like you're saying, you're extending your time working at, the kitchen table, or even just yeah, with the new restrictions that we're in, there's no movie theaters that are open, restaurants are closed for dine-in, so we are spending a lot of time even after office hours in our homes. And like you're saying, unless you're a big outdoorsman for the winter, you don't necessarily want to go out for a walk when it's lower than -20. So by adding some extra home amenities and improving your lifestyle at home.
Yeah, that's great. Just to be able to use your equity to do that will be able to help you with where you're at with your home, and
Mhm.
it'll create for a more enjoyable lifestyle as we are more at home these days,
Mhm.
um, and hopefully cure that Christmas blues.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's a second way that Sam and I have to cure your Christmas blues. And the third way today, obviously, if you have any questions about how these figures will be for you, you can always give us a shout and we can give you a perspective as to what your customized solution will look like. But the
Mhm.
third way is now, because we are in the winter and thick of things, you're probably thinking vacation time. So
Right.
let's get a cottage. Maybe use your home equity to purchase a cottage and
Mhm.
leverage your home equity to buy a cottage and get that place ready for the summer. Maybe a cottage may be too out of your budget, so maybe you want to get a motorhome or a RV or something
Mhm.
like that, or a campsite or something where you have a trailer. That
Mhm.
could be in the cards for you, and having something like that to look forward to can sometimes cure the Christmas blues as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a trend that we saw coming out of 2021. A lot of refinance second property purchases that were cottages. So, if you're spending your beginning January in a lockdown and you're dreaming of, swimming and being outdoors in nice sunny weather where it's actually warm, then yeah, it's definitely something that you can use your equity to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the three ways you can use refinancing to cure the Christmas blues. One way would be to consolidate your debts, pay off some bills, have some peace of mind,
Mhm.
prepare for your tax bill, or lower your tax bill by contributing to your RSP. And Sam, you mentioned updating your home office.
Mhm. Yeah, doing some home upgrades can definitely make you at least feel fresh, get in sort of a spring cleaning mindset, a new office, maybe a sit stand desk, who knows?
Yeah, and then or buying a cottage or getting a place for the summer.
Mhm.
Three ways to you can cure your Christmas blues with refinancing. Give Samurai a call. Um, and now, as we conclude that part of the episode, we just want to introduce Sam Thompson. Sam is a mortgage agent. Been working in the mortgage industry now for uh, just almost 2 years now. I'm just
Cheers.
looking at the date here.
Mm.
We're very close to that point. I know that you got your license about 2 years ago now.
Mhm.
And so that's amazing. And moved originally from the Ottawa area to Barrie, Ontario. So how are you doing today? That was great to have you on the episode today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Joe, and for the awesome introduction. I didn't even realize what date we were at. I'm definitely
Yeah.
getting close to that 2 year mark. But yeah, it's always good to be on the episodes with you, Joe. For anybody who doesn't know, Joe Bladek is a mortgage broker who's been in the industry for over 11 years this past fall. Living up in Aurelia. So I don't think there's a mortgage situation that Joe hasn't seen yet. So definitely, if you're trying to work towards a refinance or anything, Joe is definitely the guy to chat to. So thanks for having me on the episode today.
Thanks very much, Sam, for that great introduction on my end. And as we look forward to episode number 58, we'll be talking about the best ways to prepare as a first-time home buyers.
Mhm.
And Sam, I know that we have a webinar coming up specifically designed for Canada's first-time home buyer.
Mhm.
Can you tell everyone about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be on January 27th at 7 p.m. So the duration's approximately an hour. And I love these webinars just because they really cover off almost anything. I feel like everybody that I've talked to in follow-up conversations after is that it's a lot of great knowledge and things that you would probably looking back want to have known before starting the process. So we cover off grants, incentives, how to get money back, and just a lot of the common questions a lot of first-time buyers have. So it's a great place to start, even if maybe you're mentally preparing for a year away from your first purchase. starting with the webinar and getting educated is by far the best position to be in. So I encourage you, if you are watching as a first-time buyer, to sign up for that webinar coming up on the 27th.
Absolutely. We'll have a link for everyone on our Facebook page coming up shortly. In the meantime, we'll also be announcing again at our next episode 58, preparing as a first-time home buyer. We'll have a couple quick tidbits there here on Canadian Mortgage Weekly, Canada's weekly video mortgage news podcast. And we look forward to seeing you next week, Thursday at 11:30.